Next up, we'll reach Chekhovs Gun and red herrings. Chekhovs Gun is the idea that something in the story must be essential to it. Chekhov came from a day whenever they were stage plays. He actually started out as a prop master and then became a writer of plays himself. So his idea was, if you put a gun on a wall in the first act, that gun better be used by the end of the play. Otherwise, it's pointless for him, the prop master, to put the gun there. He's got to find a gun, he's got to hang it there, he's got to make sure it's accessible. Good example is Shaun of the Dead. They go to a bar called the Winchester. Hanging up is a Winchester rifle. They talk about it. One guy says, it's probably not even usable. It's hanging on the wall. It's certainly not going to be loaded. Later on, they drop it off the wall and shoot zombies with it. Works perfectly fine, even though it's been there for 40 years without being maintained. It's loaded. Ah, yeah, it works fine. Anybody's played Final Fantasy VII? Some of you might have. The big cannon that you see on disc 1 that does nothing. What is it, disc 3? Boom! Takes out one of the weapons. Hope I didn't spoil anything for you. The game is older than some of the people in this room. I hope I didn't spoil anything.
I think we're spoiler free.
A red herring is the exact opposite. A red herring would be putting the gun on there, commenting about the gun, and then never doing anything with it. It leads the reader, viewer, whatever, player astray, and convinces them that it's not actually that. Good example, if anybody's ever seen a pup named Scooby-Doo, there was a character named Red Herring. In every episode, Fred was like, you know who did it? It was Red Herring. How many times was Red Herring actually the bad guy?
Fred had a problem.
Exactly. Once. And it was the episode where everybody bet Fred, I'll bet you can't go a whole day without accusing Red Herring. It was like, fine. And every time it was like, I'll bet, never mind, I'll reserve. And that one time was when it was Red Herring.
Well, that's ready to commit the crime. That's why nobody's going to fix it.
That's Anton Chekhov. And as he said, you know, if you say in the first chapter there's a rifle hanging on the wall, in the second or third chapter it absolutely must go off. If it's not going to be fired, it shouldn't be hanging there. Like I said, he started out as a prop master. Another good example. Anybody ever watch My Little Pony?
Yeah.
The fight with Discord. What is Celestia doing? She's spike faxing all of the documents, all of the scrolls that they've written to her through the entire last season to remind them of their friendship.
Some of them got the red herring.
I bet you thought there was going to be a slide there. Next up is point of view. There are technically 3 points of view in any story. First person is written from the view of the character. And it will be written like, I did this, or I did that. You can write it in present tense too. I am doing this, I am doing that. Third person, it's written from the point of view of the narrator. Most stories are written in third person. A lot of them are also written in first person. Third person is, you know, if I was talking about your life, you walked into the room, well, if I was talking about, you know, your life, I would say, you know, Stephen walked into the room, Stephen sat down, Stephen enjoyed the panel. Second person point of view, and there is a debate in the writing world whether this exists. The people who say that it doesn't are wrong. Second person point of view is written from your point of view of the writer, of the reader, of the player, of the watcher. If you've ever played an adventure game from the old days, Sierra Classic's King's Quest, Police Quest, probably anything that ends in Quest. Even had Space Quest. They made a movie, a relation to that one. That was a good bigger one. Second person is, you walked into the room, you did this, you did that. If you've ever read a Choose Your Own Adventure book, a lot of them are written from second person perspective.
Sorry.
Another part of it is, another section of point of view, you get this a lot in third person, particularly third person omnipotent. That's where the narrator knows what the character is thinking. You have to be careful though. The idea is each chapter, or at least each section, should be from, even if you're a third person, imagine yourself behind that person, witnessing it from their perspective. So imagine they've told you about it and you're writing it now. You don't want to what's called head hopping. Example, head hopping. Lisa, you're such a jerk, cried Anne, frustrated by her friend's unusual behavior. She couldn't understand it. So we're clearly in Lisa's mind. And then, I'm sorry, Lisa sighed, depressed by Anne's outburst. That's not good because now we've just jumped into Lisa's mind. We know that she feels depressed. We shouldn't. Instead, we have this. Lisa, you're such a jerk, cried Anne, frustrated by her friend's unusual behavior. She couldn't understand it. I'm sorry, Lisa sighed. She looked depressed. It doesn't seem like much, but that change can define things. Because if you know what every character is thinking, there's no mystery. If you know why Lisa is acting this way, then in 3 chapters when it's revealed, oh, it's because, you know, Lisa's on drugs or something. Well, you already know because 3 chapters ago you had a scene where Anne walks out of the room and Lisa shoots up. It's not as interesting anymore. It might be a little hard to see with the picture.
Take it back.
Point of view. Grammar, punctuation, and syntax. Remember that a novel, a game, whatever you're writing, it's not a Facebook post. Although Facebook has their grammar Nazis that will come in with their asterisk there. Capitalization is very important. Proper nouns, place names, titles. I will give you an example of, and remember that if you get any of this wrong, it doesn't mean I suck, I'm done with writing. You just have to work at it. Or get a job as a professional journalist. I used to work at the Post-Gazette. I believe he was a local man. I don't remember his name. He's a war hero, achieved the rank of Major General. And the person who typed up the story, I wasn't part of the story, but I read it whenever it had all the red ink on it. She wrote that he achieved the rank of Major General. Major General is a title. The M in Major and the G in General should be capitalized. The editor said, oh, Major General, lowercase that. So when it actually went to print, it said, in lowercase, Major General. In lowercase, that means that he was an important general. He was a Major General. That would be like saying, oh, King Edward, but not capitalizing King. That just means that, oh, he was a king. His name happened to be Edward. But that wasn't his title. It was. Commas, commas, and more commas. Yes, I am a huge fan of the Oxford comma. That is this comma here. Because without that comma, sometimes it gets difficult to figure out what you're saying. Always use a comma to separate things. Unless your publisher tells you different, at which point you tell them, no. And then you go find another publisher because they won't publish your book. I was lucky enough to find a publisher that liked the Oxford comma too, and I was like, yes.
Self-published?
No. Eternal Press is the name of my publisher. The revision of Damnation Books. But I didn't have werewolves or vampires, so I had to go through Eternal Press. Also, Timothy and I went to the park. It's not me and Timothy went to the park. Take yourself out of it, that still sound right. Without Timothy, me went to park!
Caveman would be.
Numbers. Technically, anything less than 100, you should always use words. Anything more than 100, you can use, less than 100, you can use numbers. Anything more than 100, you can use word form. The best bet is just to use word form all the time. The exception to that is dates, but even then, if you want to put, you know, the 7th, instead of, you know, May 7th,